Next up, we have TMK Energy. So TMK has the ASX code TMK. The energy company is a gas exploration company with a 100% stake in the Gurvantes project in Mongolia's South Gobi Basin and a 20% stake in the Talisman Deep project, sorry, I've really butchered that, including the Napoleon structure in the Barrow Dampier sub-basin. Presenting for the company today is Dougal Ferguson, CEO. Dougal, thank you for your time. Sorry about my mispronunciation. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Abbey, and nice to be here. First time I've been with ShareCafe, so it's been a great experience. And thanks to Martin, I think that was a great intro into small cap companies as we are, and where the growth potentially lies in some of these growing companies. So look, our company is as in the energy business. We're in the nascent industry in Mongolia of coal seam gas, which is a huge industry in Australia, and we're aiming to be the first company in Mongolia. There's a number of companies trying to really crack the code and show the enormous potential of the coal seam gas business in Mongolia. Next, please, Abby. I'll just leave the disclaimer to read at your leisure, but the opportunity that we provide is a low risk, relatively low risk, and a very scalable project in Mongolia. We started a few years ago with an exploration program that delivered a huge contingent resource just from a very small area within our very large permit that we have over there. And more recently, we've just completed a drilling program that has allowed us to create a number of events over the next little period that really could crack the code and be the sort of unlocking of the value that we see in this project. Where we are is located in the South Gobi Desert, very close to the Chinese border, which is close to the the biggest energy market in the world, being China, but also nearby some local coal mining operations that provide us an immediate market of, as it says there, 35 to 70 megawatts of power. So there's an immediate sort of short-term market that we can tap into, but the long-term obviously is the huge market that exists next door in China. And as I said, recently we went through a bit of a funding round, raised about $4.5 million, allowed us to sort of complete these additional 3 wells and give us enough funding to get through these critical points in the next 3 or 4 months. Next, please, Abby. Just a corporate snapshot, as a lot of small cap companies have done. It's been a tough road in 2024, share price wise and market cap wise. But look, we've got to the point, as I said, where we're in a position now we can really, deliver some value to shareholders. And taking Martin's point, the best time to buy these is when at the low prices, and we are at one of the lowest prices we've been at and lowest valuations we've had. Yet the project is actually the most advanced stage. We've drilled a bunch of wells now, and we're really at that point where we can demonstrate the value in this project and the huge upside too. Just on the shareholder, the board and management hold a significant portion of the shares, and our top 20 holders also own a fair chunk of the company. So, a pretty tight register, generally speaking. Next, Eddie. Board and management. Look, myself, I've stepped into the CEO role from July this year. Prior to that, Brendan Stats, who's still with us, was the CEO. We have a good broad spread on the board, including local representation, Mongolian representation, and I think generally speaking, a good team and working towards the goal of first production next year. Next, please, Andy. Just an overview of the project itself. Mongolia is actually a very large country. People sort of don't realise how big it is. It's also very resource rich, and one of its key, if you like, foreign currency, foreign revenue comes from resources, coal. Rio Tinto operate the Oyu Tolgoi mine there, which is one of the biggest copper gold mines in the world. And there's a bunch of other companies, Australian and others, TSX listed, ASX listed companies in the minerals area operating in Mongolia. So it's a fairly, advanced mining province. There's a lot of people, services available. It's a nascent industry in the coal seam gas, but that's building over time, and it's been going for now 3 or 4 years. And there's at least 3 or 4 different companies operating in the same space we are in Mongolia. We've got the largest contingent resource that's been discovered there through our drilling in 2022. But next, please, Abbey. I'll just expand on that a little bit. So, look, our program has said the last 3 months we've been drilling. We just completed that at the end of November. We've got those wells now online. We're just going through the process of what they call cleanup of those wells, which basically removes all the drilling fluid and whatnot. And we gradually increase the speed on the pumps in those wells to get to what we call the critical desorption pressure, which we need to reach to really demonstrate that you can produce gas out of these coals in commercial quantities. So that estimated time frame is around March to probably the end of April, May next year. But we now have the tools in place to allow us to get there. Previously, we drilled 3 wells about a year ago, thinking that might be enough, but you never know with Mother Earth, and the geology proved that we actually needed a few more wells. So that's what we've done, and now we're well on our way to getting to that point. So we're starting things like pre-feasibility studies and planning for our initial maiden reserve estimates. We currently have a contingent resource, but we're having to change that into a reserve in the coming, for certainly this first half of next year. Next, please, Abbey. So just in relation to where does this sit in the world as far as coal seam gas fields comparisons? So it's right up there. It is a world-class deposit. It's got all the attributes we need to produce coal seam gas. If you like the comparison to the Australian Bowen Basin, which is now a multi-billion-dollar industry in Queensland, and really that's how this started, because Brendan, who was our CEO and is our chief sort of project manager there, he worked in Mongolia for 10 years. He knew the coal seam, he knew the coal deposits, and also was well aware of what had happened in Queensland, and that was the impetus to get this asset in the first place. And we got it listed a few years ago and started working on it and drilling wells. So next, Abbey. So as mentioned, we have the largest contingent resource in Mongolia. We drilled 5 relatively cheap exploration wells back in the early days, and that delivered this 1.2 TCF, which is 1.2 trillion cubic feet of 2C resources. I mean, that's a lot of gas. So our goal now is to convert that into reserves and production, and that's really what we're doing. But this is sort of the early stages of that program. But at the same time, the demonstration of proof of concept is where the value lies. And once people and the market realizes that, hey, this does work, it is possible, the gas does come out the ground, then the value of this is enormous. Please, next, please, Abbey. So as I said, we've had a few years of working through this process. 2022, we drilled the exploration wells. 2023, we drilled if you like, phase 1 of the pilot production wells, which was 3 wells. We had a partner in Talon Energy, which was taken over. We acquired their interest back again, and then we moved into 2024 to drill after being in production for about 12 months, realizing we needed to have some additional wells. We drilled 3 more wells, and they've just been completed. So as I said, all the tools are in place, all the wells are in place, the facilities are in place, all the capital has been spent and paid, and money paid for. Project paid for, and we're good to go basically for getting gas flows in the first half of next year and leading to production. So next, please, Abbey. So this is what we just completed. LF4, LF5, and LF6 are called Lucky Fox wells. Lucky Fox 4, 5, and 6. We're targeting the upper coal seam. There's actually 2 coal seams here, but the upper coal seam is A, shallow, which is cheaper, but B, had better sort of initial permeability results when we did the drilling. So we've done all this through the year, and we're just need that last tick in the box, which is reaching the critical desorption pressure, and we expect to get that in the next few months. Next, please, Abby. Again, conceptual field development. This area that we've been drilling is a outcropping coal. It's mined at surface. We're targeting sort of 250 to about 750 meters in depth. and it spreads in an east-west fashion across our block. There's huge upsides outside this main area, but we're focusing just here to prove this concept. And this is a sort of just a conceptual development of how we might move forward and get to production and become self-funding over a period of time. Next, please, Abbey. Look, the domestic supply opportunity, it's relatively large. I mean, there is no production in Mongolia of natural gas. There's, as I said, huge mining operations. They all rely on either power from China or coal-fired power, which is not really in people's sort of minds at the moment with ESG requirements, etc. So, look, there is a huge market for domestic gas in Mongolia. Next, please, Abbey. But really, the opportunity is next door in China, massively growing market. With a lot of the things in China, I mean, if you build it, they will come. So if you find it, they will come. They're not really into exploring, so that's left up to companies like us to do the hard yards, if you like, finding the gas, developing the gas, getting it into production, proving the concept, and then at that point, that's where sort of the Chinese investors will come and acquire or become partners in the project at some point in time. Next, please. So that's it for us, and just kept it brief as good. But look, it's been a very active year. We've got our funding sorted out. We've got the operations done. We drilled the wells. Everything's running as it should be. We've had no issues with drilling. We've had no sort of major cost overruns, so we're in a great position and really looking forward to the next few months where we hopefully demonstrate this proof of concept and see some really some value added to the company and the share price.
Thank you for your presentation, Dougal. I do have a few questions here if you have the time.
Oh, yep.
So I think you touched on this in your presentation, but do you see Mongolia as a favourable jurisdiction?
Compared to many other jurisdictions, I think it is very favourable. Certainly Africa's had its challenges in recent months, as I'm sure people know, and Australia has its challenges. I mean, getting a project up and running at this speed that we've been able to do this, I don't think we could have done this in Australia with environmental constraints and whatnot. So, look, we've moved very quickly. We've drilled a bunch of wells. We've got approvals in place. There is relatively stringent rules with regards to environmental, etc. So we certainly don't take any shortcuts there. But look, I think we've you can move things forward pretty quickly in Mongolia. I mean, there's always the underlying country risk. Mongolia is surrounded by China and Russia, but then companies like Rio, for example, invested billions of dollars into their projects there, and certainly move forward on development and investment in the country.
And then in terms of infrastructure, what's needed to connect to Mongolia and China's pipelines?
Yeah, so the major east-west gas pipeline system in China is about 400 kilometres away from where we are, which certainly in Chinese terms is throwing distance, and they will, building a pipeline to the border, if that sort of all came about, is certainly not a major issue. In Mongolia itself, there's no real there's no gas production, so there's no pipeline infrastructure, but there's certainly electricity infrastructure. And some of the things we're looking at and working pretty closely with a few groups on is things like transporting gas around the country in bottles, mini LNG, compressed natural gas, etc. Those type of opportunities exist for sure.
And then what do you see as the main risks to the project?
At the moment, I think the main risk of the project would really be demonstrating to the market and the investors that we can commercialise the resource, and we're working pretty hard on a few things, and hopefully we'll have some news coming up in the not too distant future that demonstrates that we can actually do that. So initially, getting gas out of the ground, I mean, it is an engineering issue now, and it all comes down to not will it work, but how well does it work. So we're very keen to get the results from these wells and see the level of commerciality that we can get from these coal seams, as opposed to will it work. It's more like how well it will work.
And could you comment on your funding position and plans for further funding?
Yeah, look, as I said, we just recently completed a funding round or multiple funding rounds with shareholders giving the opportunity as well through entitlement issues, etc., which raised about $4.5 million. We spent some of that money on the drilling, but we're well funded now through to, as I said, the demonstration of the proof of concept of getting the gas out the ground, and look, future funding. One of the major sort of, if you like, strategic goals of the company over the next 6 months is to find an additional partner, and which obviously will be, a much simpler task, I would imagine, once we get to the point of proving commerciality from these wells. So that's a high priority for the company, is to find a partner. This is a massive project. We're probably never going to do this on our own, and that's finding the right partner is a key driver for us.
And then will Trump tariffs and other geopolitical factors affect the project?
Sorry, just say it again. Tariffs? What was that?
The Trump tariffs and other geopolitical.
Oh, sorry. Look, I don't think so. I mean, energy is Mongolia's energy short. They need the energy in the short term. That's where we'll be supplying the energy. Just domestically in Mongolia. Prices are going up in Mongolia. All their power comes from, as I said, China. All the gas comes from Russia, and fuel comes from Russia. So they want energy independence and energy security. Longer term, with China, I mean, that is a longer term proposition. I'm not sure Trump will be around by then, so we'll see what happens.
And then finally, I know you touched on this, but what can investors look forward to for the next 6 to 12 months?
The next 6 to 12 months is really about, as I said, getting to the point of commercial production rates and demonstrating that. But look, in the shorter term, we're obviously looking for starting that process to bring in a partner, but also doing some early commercialization, we're calling it, where if we produce gas in the next few months, we don't just want to flare it and let it go to waste. We actually want to put that to good use. We certainly need power at our site. The local coal miners need power, and there's a pretty big market there. So we'll be trying to sort of utilise that gas in the best possible way to generate some revenue, but also show the benefit of this project to Mongolia and local users and for shareholders, obviously.
Dougal, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your presentation. That is all we have time for. But we would love to get you on in the new year. But until then, have a great holiday season.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Thank you.